Hello, Sarika. How
Hi.
did you get involved in music and all the way halfway across the world? What inspired you to start learning piano?
Thank you for asking that. So I started when I was very young. I've always been a very creative child, and I loved music always, whether it was in the form of dancing or was it trying out different instruments. So I think the keyboard was the first instrument that I managed to get my hands on. And I was in high school when I joined a music school because I wanted to learn in a very structured manner. So I started with the Trinity College of London examinations, and within about 3 years of learning, I had an opportunity to start teaching because my teacher felt like I had good people management skills and I was catching up really quickly. And she said, you're joining college, so it'll be good pocket money. So at that point, I started part time, and I was very young, and I would teach in the evenings after college and on the weekends. And then it slowly, my passion started growing even more over the years. And I kind of completed all my grades in theory and practical. And then when I got married, I moved from New Delhi to Mumbai, and I continued my teaching privately. And then I managed to move to New York for 3 years to study further because I have an education in human resources and business as well. And then now I'm based in Bangalore in India. So I continue teaching wherever I go. And that's pretty much like my journey.
So your journey started a little bit later on, because a lot of people that I've talked to who are very heavily involved in music, especially piano and performance, they've started at a very young age. And I even consider my start to be a little bit later. I was like around 9 or 10 years old. So it's very interesting to see the different age levels that people get started and still take it to a pretty high level.
Yes, that's true. Actually, I would like to categorize that because I've noticed in India we have four categories. So you have students who start at a very early age at 4 or 8, or you have teenagers who want to do it as a stress buster, or you have a population who's working that they would like to indulge in something like this as a stress buster, and then you have people who like to take it up as a profession. So for me, it was more as an extracurricular activity because I was just wanted to try something new. And then I got an opportunity to teach very early on, and I just absolutely loved it. And that's why I definitely stuck by it throughout all these years.
And Ashita, could you please tell us how you got involved in learning piano and playing piano?
Hi. So basically, it all started with just a mini keyboard. Like in India, there's a trend. So you start with the keyboard. Like basically, I started, and my father is into the same field. He's a very good vocalist and very renowned.
Mm.
So basically, I inherited that. And starting from the vocals, I somehow like basically combined the piano, guitar at the same time and into the schools and then colleges and then practicing that. And it took a turn when I didn't want to pursue music and wanted to pursue psychology. So I opted the psychology as the main subject. But in the colleges, I went to every competition and they started kind of praising that you have good skills. So I worked on them. And then I started the social media, the Facebook, Instagram. I put a lot of videos. So some of the videos got viral. So then I thought that I have something which is something big. So I should take it as well, seriously. So I started the piano on a serious note. And now I'm thinking to pursue with the music production because just sticking to piano is basically, I don't think so. It's a very great idea for the person like me because I'm very divergent. So I should use it rather the way. So I'm a self-taught. I've never learned much, but there were teachers who helped me throughout the life in the piano and everything. So it went well.
Now, in your experience, Ashita, taking music lessons versus being self-taught, in your experiences and your circles, what would you say is a rough percentage of self-taught versus going to find a teacher and having formal lessons?
Well, I regret actually because every time you learn from any teacher, then YouTube is you cannot call it like a professional teacher because you choose yourself which lesson has to be taken. But when you go step by step, I think then you can be called as a proper pianist. So that is why I'm working with grades, like grade 3, grade 4. So you should know, because when you enter into professionalism, you should know how and what content by step you have to give and you have to receive. So I think it's very important to learn. And self-taught is something very good, but of course you should be learning.
And I fully agree. Whenever you follow in someone else's footsteps, it definitely expedites the process. However, there are many self-taught players that I know that are amazing. So in my experience, I've seen there are many ways to achieve some level of success, especially in music and performance. But at the same time, there's always that advantage of taking lessons and expediting that process. Now, Sarika, what is your experience in India in the sense of people starting music self-taught versus lessons? And maybe we'll try to stick to the genre of piano. Do you find there's a lot of self-taught versus people who have been educated by a teacher, or vice versa?
So, in my opinion, I feel like that students prefer to be taught by a teacher, and that we have many music schools that are very popular in India, where they teach various curriculums which could be customized, or you could follow the examination route. And I feel like those are very, very popular. So, students prefer to come into a school. They can join a group class, or they could join an individual one-on-one lesson with the teacher, but parents have a huge influence in the decision making for their children in India. And I've noticed that at a very young age, the parents would like their kids to enroll in piano lessons. And the schools that they join, they have grades, like as Ashita was mentioning, that they have grades from 1 to 8, and then diplomas. So when you start really early on, the parents know that there is a path that's that's drawn out, and they have to follow through, at least if they feel like it. So it depends, and the ones who are self-taught would be the ones who enjoy music. They want to try out various things. They just need direction. They need to be nudged in the right direction, and if they have enough material provided online, then they're able to learn. And I wouldn't say that I can't put a number on it, but yes, I would say that the larger part of the population would like to learn from a teacher, but there is also another part of the population where they feel like they can go on YouTube videos and various other platforms to learn from teachers who are around the world online, or from just like videos, and learn a couple of concepts and stitch them together. If they don't want to take it up as a profession, but just if they want to get into music production, they want to learn the keyboard, just the basics about it, and putting popular tunes together and not go through a structured approach. So it would just be two different approaches, according to me.
So that being said, here in Canada, we have an organization called the Royal Conservatory of Music, and they have examination levels from 1 to 10, and then they have more advanced exams that you can take to become a teacher or focus more on performing. How does it work in India, Sarika? So are there a couple different organizations people can follow?
Yes, I would say the most popular one is Trinity College of London. So most of the big schools over here follow the curriculum from there, which is where you start at initial and you go to grade 1 to grade 8. And how the exam is structured is it's a 100-mark exam, and it's divided between examination pieces. It's like Western classical music and technical work and some scales work and sight reading and oral tests. So listening skills and theory. So you'll have a 100-mark paper for practical and a 100-mark paper for theory. And those examinations take place twice in a year, in May and November. And you have an examiner coming in from the UK, and then they would meet the students over here who enroll with these schools, and they take these exams, and then we get certificates. And those certificates can be used by these students for getting through undergrad universities or extracurricular activities anywhere. So that's quite a popular way of students learning in India.
Aashita, what is your experience with some of these organizations? Have you seen different ones that exist in India, or are these the main ones that Sarika is speaking of?
the organization is Trinity, of course, the main leading one, as the syllabus is being followed everywhere. So I went to Delhi School of Music, as you must be knowing. Delhi is the capital of the India, so we went to the best of the school, which is Delhi School of Music. And there's also KN Music of A.R. Rahman sir. He's like the greatest, music producer and like the one in Bollywood in India, especially. So both of these institutes, I think they are very like the greatest ones. So these were the ones I wanted to go actually. And I am still confused in my life that I should make into them or not. Because of the lockdown, I've been realizing I think that going there and learning will bring some different kind of a change in my music. So that is how it is.
Well, much like in everywhere in the world, especially with the history of Western music, a lot of the times students would have even traveled to different cities to go study with a specific teacher or go to a certain school. There seems to be a lot of pedigree when it involves music education. We seek out those who have the highest reputation, those who are the most skilled, and who can translate their skills to us. Oftentimes, we're willing to actually leave cities. And when I was doing research on Lang Lang, the famous Chinese pianist, his family moved to a different city so he could study with a very reputable teacher. And now he's the world famous pianist. So it seems to be quite a very important thing in music, is that you seek out someone you can really learn well from and who has a good reputation established. So I wanted to talk about the market for music lessons in India. What is the popularity factor for some of the Western instruments in India, namely the piano, guitar, drums, things like that? Sarika, what is your experience there?
Yes. So just to give you context, we have about 1.3 billion people in India. Out of that, like about 50% is under the age of 25. So yes, very young population. And so I would say that most of them are skewing towards Western classical or rock and pop, depending on what they prefer. Or they would choose the Bollywood or the Indian music. So it's either or. When it comes to instruments, it's most popular as piano, guitar, drums. Yes, guitar I would say is more accessible by most students. It's easier. It's more affordable. So I would say that's the most popular. But then, of course, piano has picked up quite a bit, and because you have keyboards and you could learn from almost every second neighborhood now has a school or has a teacher, and music education is imparted in private schools and public schools. So I would say that it's definitely becoming more popular by the year. And parents are also understanding the benefits of music education on how it uses different parts of the brains and being logical and creative at a very early age. So at the age of 4 or 5 or 8, kids are starting to learn piano or guitar or drums, and then they see what they like, and then they kind of continue over the years.
And Aashita, what is your experience in terms of the most popular instruments in your circles? What do you hear people showing interest towards in terms of learning music?
So basically, in my circle, and especially in India, it has been said that if you sing well, that is, I think singing is kind of overrated here, what I feel in mostly everywhere country wise. But India and mostly sections of society, if you call it like South India, North India, they want, if you are singing, even if you're not singing well, they are kind of impressed very easily. So the instruments are very underrated. And seeking this all, they people and the adults especially who want to sing, so they pick up the piano or guitar so that they support their vocals. For example, I'm singing anything, I would see that it's just very empty. So I to fill that voice thing, I would pick up a guitar or piano. So that is how it goes. They don't mostly people don't want to learn heavy instruments which are really technical, difficult. So they pick up the easy one so they can sing along and they can learn it as solo as well. So considering that, piano and guitar are mainstream instruments.
Now, when it comes to the traditional instruments, One of my favorite is the sitar. Aashita, in your experience, what is the demand for learning some of these traditional instruments in India and continuing on the legacy of the very unique instruments and the sounds they create in Indian music?
First of all, I would like to mention that since the very day I joined the music production, I got to know that from the mini keyboard, which is called MIDI, you can produce the same sound, kind of not produce the same sound, but can enact like, you're playing like flute, which is like original sitar. So you can kind of copy that tone from the VSTs and you can create other times. So that for that, I think people are not learning and people think that the MIDI would do everything. And if they want to get recorded something in the song or something like commercial, uncommercial, so they would, pay someone and get the best of things. So I think it's dying that people are not learning sitar and people think that it's a mindset in our young generation that it's very, old fashioned to play tabla, guitar is cool. So they would, kind of say that I don't want to listen to sitar classical. We as Indians, we don't want to hear our own music. We don't want to listen our own music. So that way, I think people are not really into sitar, flute, violin, sarangi, sarod. They're just like, we want to become famous or just want to reach something which is like global. And flute and every traditional instrument cannot be global. Right now, what I see.
And Sarika, what is your take on this subject? Where do the traditional instruments lie in the demand for learning music in the Indian population?
So unfortunately, I don't feel like the Indian instruments are given as much weightage as the Western instruments are lately. Piano and guitar and violin are definitely more popular than using the sitar or tabla. And that's quite unfortunate because it sounds beautiful. And when you hear them and only in certain performances and certain performers in India, like they're a very small part of the population that would go and hear them and watch them playing live. So I wish that there were more people who wanted to learn those instruments. It's just more difficult to learn. There's a lot of, I think it's just harder. And so people aren't opting for it and that seems to be dying. But I've noticed in the other part of the world, Indians who have moved out and they've gone to other countries, they want to be connected to the Indian roots and they are opting for learning the Indian instruments more than we are sitting here in India.
When it comes to studying music, what is the perception of taking online lessons versus finding an actual teacher and learning one-on-one online and also going in person, so going to a school? Sarika, how would you rate the three different levels?
So I would say that students definitely prefer to come in person because you get the personal touch and that you're able to learn dynamics and articulation and so many other techniques can be taught when you are in person. But given the situation that we are at the moment with the lockdown, the advantage of that is that teachers are able to teach students across the world and you don't have to be in the same city or go to that school. You could be learning from wherever you are, and that's now possible. So I feel like students are now kind of opening up to the idea of learning online. It's a little bit challenging. There are different platforms which teachers can use to customize the coursework to make it as personal as possible, and students are also evolving to that idea. But I feel like in India we haven't got there yet where everybody would just completely switch online yet. They're still a little bit apprehensive, especially for the younger students who are just starting out and they're still discovering their voice, discovering their skill sets. It's a little bit different because a parent has to be more involved instead of the teacher sitting with the student and then showing them how to play the keys and how to sit in a certain posture, and how to write out notes and do some theory. It's very different, very difficult to do that online unless the student is a little bit older and they're able to, kind of understand on their own and you're able to give them homework and they come back and then you could check it. But it depends like from age group to age group. So I would say in person is definitely more personal and but people are moving online now and seem to be getting used to it.
And Ashita, When you learned on your own, did you feel that this was the way to go for you? Was there a barrier to entry to taking piano lessons? Or did you find that it was just the easier way to go, just to be able to find all the information online and learn that way?
I would call it as an escape because when you are into a regular kind of a class, then you have a pressure which which can be termed as you stress. Basically, you have a stress that I have a class, I have to submit the lesson, and the teacher is monitoring my hand positions, everything. And then there's a competition as well that from over time I have to improve from this or that person. If you're in a combined class, they combine like you give the exam, so you get yourself evaluated on the basis like what are you doing. So that way I think it's an escape totally, because self-taught I'm totally against it, against myself, because I think when somebody is watching you, you will be always having a like kind of a thing that I want to grow more. And if you're just in your own room, then you will be like your own king. So you don't want to get like further, like I want to improve or something like that. So I think teachers should be monitoring.
Now, Ashita, is it difficult to find a piano teacher in Delhi? Are there a lot of teachers that are affordable, or is it something a little bit more challenging?
It is very, very easy to find teachers in Delhi because I have, like, I learned a little bit, like 2 months, 3 months, and then I would take a break so that I can tell my teachers that if I'm learning, it's fine or not. So there's a Manish sir, Manish Babu sir, he's very famous in Delhi. He performs as well in the gig. So I'm a student of him. Apart from him, I think there are many teachers, and there are many schools, like hundreds of the schools in every street, kind of like they want to give the tuition, and they are kind of affiliated with the Trinity, so it's very very easy. And but the only problem which comes up with the fee, because people don't want to submit the fee, like the piano classes are very costly for like larger amount of people, because they want their kids to do in education system, but then it comes to music. Yeah, but recently I've been observing that people are improving, so I think it's 50-50 that people are finding the teachers, and they're like just sending the kids to their piano teachers.
So, Sarika, I see that you have an upright piano behind you. I know here in Canada, to have an actual acoustic piano, you don't have to plug it in. It has the weighted keys, a different tone. It's generally a lot more pleasing to practice on an acoustic piano. What is the barrier of entry for people in your city to be able to afford something like that?
So I would say that we have two major schools in India, where one of them is called Theme Institute, which has an affiliation with Kawai, and then we have the second one, which is Pataro School of Music, that brings in all sorts of instruments, like all brands from Yamaha to Kaiserberg, or the ones that you name it. And so these stores have all the pianos, most of the good models available, whether they're digital or a keyboard or upright or even baby grand pianos. So the ones that who are interested can definitely walk into the store and get the best deal possible. But I would say the majority of the population that starts the instrument would maybe just buy a 40 key or a 66 key instead of going for an 88 key at a very early age, because it does get a little bit expensive. Or they would like to rent a digital piano, which would be more economical, where they know that if they want to take a break at some point, they could give it back and they don't have to make a very high financial commitment.
And Ashita, was it difficult for you to find instruments like your guitar and your keyboard? Were they fairly expensive, or did you find it to be relatively affordable?
I feel that if you have interest, you would definitely buy a very basic guitar or piano. And then if you want to work harder on them, and then you choose that this is my instrument. So I was playing guitar and then piano. So I thought that piano strikes more and it is pleasing my senses. So I just picked it up and then I upgraded. So I would rather say that just take a very basic model and then upgrade as per your interest.
In terms of the kind of music that new up and coming students generally demand, What, in your opinion, Ashita, do brand new students want to learn? Are they wanting to learn classical music on the piano, like Beethoven, Mozart, or are they going more towards learning popular Western music or maybe Bollywood music?
Of course, Bollywood and Western goes hand in hand. Because if you learn grades like grade 1 to 8, like if you cover even grade 3, then you are able to practice. Like you kind of get a license to teach because you are affiliated with the Trinity, and it creates a image that okay, so and so has done from the Trinity, and internationally it's been acceptable. So it goes hand in hand. And on the other side, people like in the colleges, especially when the students go, so they feel that apart from education, what would be there that they would opt for, and it would be called as that it's their identity. Suppose I am studying, okay, but then I play piano, and then Bollywood style, it would be for the larger population, of course. Then if I'm playing Beethoven, of course it would be for the small population, and they would at the time like say, okay, just stop it, maybe it's very monotonous or something, it's very too technical, that way. And there comes the third point, which I would like to highlight, I think regional music. So we have India is a very devoted, people are very devoted towards the God, and different regions are there, as you know. So basically, when you want to earn into music, so there comes the regional music, and then the keyboard comes. So there people learn the Indian classical. So the different ragas, like many rags, the daytime rags, the rag bhairavi, whatever you call it, like different rags are there. So they would learn that, and they would perform the devotional music evening nights or maybe at some event, so that they can earn as well, and they can be more be like devoted towards the God as a kind of maybe a worship act. So that is it.
And would some students go to their piano teachers asking to learn this more regional music?
Yes, they do ask regional music. Yes, it cannot be self-taught, I think, because rags are very difficult to be self-taught. Mm.
I see. And Sarika, what is your experience in terms of students' demands for learning different types of music? What genres are they tending towards?
So for me, it's mostly been either rock and pop or classical or Bollywood. So it would fluctuate between these three, and it depends on the age group. So usually the teenagers will be the one who wants to learn more pop music. The younger ones start with Trinity because their parents would put them into that curriculum, and then the one who's in Bollywood are just the ones that are like, hey, I don't want to learn how to read and write. I want to learn how to play by ear. So, and I like the song. So could you just teach me so I can just show it off on YouTube or on Instagram? So you have all types of students. And I think I've been lucky enough to be exposed to all of them, which kind of adds a lot of color to my teaching style as well.
In the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years, Sarika, where do you see piano and piano education going in India?
So it seems to be getting better every year because a number of schools seem to be. We have two major chains, and then we've got many schools in every city. So I feel like the number of schools are increasing. The curriculum in private schools, they're adding more music lessons. So I feel like there's definitely more emphasis on music in India now, whether it's on piano or other instruments as well. So I feel like it's definitely increasing over the years. And now that students are getting used to online education, I feel like we're going to be able to reach a much larger population, and especially in students in smaller towns where we don't have institutes and teachers readily available. With the use of online courses now, we can teach anywhere, and I feel like that would be a big step where we are today.
And Ashita, where do you see piano specifically going in the next 5 to 10 years in India?
Has been growing like in the past decade. So I think that it will grow. Eventually, the people will realize, that there's a process that you have to follow from learning to the basics, and then you grow up in that similar piano lesson. So I think it will grow and grow, and people would go for the live performances, which is kind of a good, career as well. because you earn the name and fame and money, of course. And apart from that, you are enjoying. That's all. So I think considering this all, live performances and all, people will grow and they would learn more. One thing I would ask you that tell me about you. I mean, tell us about you. What like how you started? What are you doing in the piano specifically? Tell me.
Absolutely. Yeah. For myself, when I started piano lessons, I was 9 years old. I used to play hockey. So, hockey in Canada is very popular. But at the time, it was starting to get very aggressive, and my parents wanted to take me out of hockey. And for some reason, I really loved piano. When I would go hang out with my friends, they all had a piano at their home for some reason, and my friends would go play their video games, and I would just be sitting at the piano, playing the rum bum bum rum bum bum rum bum bum, and I would just be figuring out different tunes like that, whatever I could learn. And eventually I asked my parents to put me in piano lessons. So they found a school. I ended up taking piano lessons there for many, many years. I then started teaching there. After that, I moved to a different studio. Now, we have an organization called the Royal Conservatory of Music here in Canada. So I completed all of their levels that they have. And in university, I actually didn't study music. I was teaching piano while I was studying mathematics and economics. And I ended up being able to pay for my degree by teaching piano. And then when I graduated, I continued teaching piano, but I started my own school. And it was kind of a mobile school. So I didn't have an actual location. I was traveling to students' homes, and I had another teacher working with me as well. So then we would cover certain areas of the city. And then I ended up getting into a retail business, and that started to become very busy. I stopped teaching one-on-one lessons for a while, and then I started being asked more and more if I could teach people, especially adults. And that's kind of what motivated me to manage my time a little bit better. So I started pianohooks.com, which is an online music lesson platform. So people can watch video lessons and learn how to play piano for a very affordable price. And then that allows me to focus on making more content and not have to teach students one-on-one. Because what I find with the one-on-one lessons, especially in the early years, and mainly for adults who are very independent and don't always want to allocate a specific hour once a week to come in and take lessons. They just want to learn on their own time. To be able to go online and watch the videos at 3 a.m. if they want, and be able to just learn on their own time. And then I don't have to be there. I have more time to make more content on YouTube, on the pianohooks.com platform. And it's just a little bit more efficient, in my opinion. So that's what I'm working on right now. And then doing these podcasts where I can interview other musicians, and aspiring students can watch these videos and hopefully get inspired to take their lessons a little bit further. So that's a very quick, condensed history of my story. So hopefully that gives a little bit of context in terms of what I'm doing here.
Definitely. So, how did you think of the name Piano Hooks?
It was very funny. I was sitting around a table with a few friends, and a friend and business partner of mine. We were actually drinking wine, of course. I'm in the wine business right now. So we do a lot of tasting, and we're building our palate, just like when it comes to music, listening a lot and developing your ear. So we were tasting wine, and we just have philosophical conversation, and I was sharing ideas of where I wanted to take my piano teaching business, from the one-on-one lessons to online. And the one business partner came up with that name, and I thought it stuck, so I used it. So I give him props, and he knows who he is.
Okay, that's nice. So you're mostly teaching online, is it?
Right now, that is my main business, is just online. Yeah, I have gotten requests to teach one-on-one, and I taught one-on-one for 15 years. So I've been very heavily involved in teaching students. The one thing I have found is a lot of the times, especially with younger students, I became a glorified babysitter. So the parents would go do their own thing in the home, wash dishes, clean, vacuum, and I would have to basically get the student to practice. And a lot of the times they didn't practice the whole week. So I would be sitting there for half an hour or 45 minutes, making them do scales, making them do ear exercises, humming exercises, sight reading exercises, and it just became a little bit monotonous. And I found that a lot of these students ended up just quitting in the end. So it wasn't really the right fit. So I decided to find a more efficient way. So people who might want to just play for fun, we don't have to go through the whole traditional method of learning sight reading and technique and this and that. So I focus on just fun songs and on this online platform. So the YouTube channel, I do all these free tutorials of popular songs. I'm looking for the trendiest songs, and international as well. So Sarika, just ending here, how can people find you and maybe even reach out to you to get a little bit of assistance in their own music education?
Yes, so I have my own Instagram page. It's at pianist.sarika. So mostly people reach out to me over there, and then we schedule a time to talk, and we talk about the piano lessons. I'm based in Bangalore in South India, and I'm also affiliated with the Furtado School and with their store as well. So if anybody's looking to buy a piano in India, I'd be happy to get them the best deal possible.
Perfect. Yeah, we were talking about barrier to entry in music. And if you can make that easier for new students, that would be great. And Ashita, how can people reach out to you? And if they have any questions about taking their music lessons further, how can they go about doing that?
Yeah, I'm mostly active on Instagram, and then I'm collaborating and creating very good content, trying to, just so you can add me on Instagram. The name is like double ASHITAKEYS, Ashita Keys. And apart from that, if you would like to get an instrument from India or any other instrument, specifically piano, then you can reach out. There's a Delhi, there's a store, Lajpat Nagar, Theme. So you just contact me and I will definitely get some more information on detailed prices and every model.
That makes it a lot easier for aspiring students. Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, ladies, for accepting to be on this interview here, this podcast called Musical Chairs. I'm looking forward to working with you and doing some collaborations in the near future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having both of us. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you and getting to know more about you as well. And looking forward to collaborating with you too.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much. And we will be speaking very soon.